Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar where we get to meet the new Interactive app. My name is Sam. I am one of the assessment consultants, and I provide assessment support to our wonderful Pearson customers. I'm currently presenting to you from way up north in Canada, but I am helping out in the US today. And although our Canadian release will shortly come after the US, I do have to say that we are equally as excited to be introducing this new Assess app that we have been working on for many, many years. So thank you in advance for taking the time to join us today. I'll have the pleasure to show you the Assess app in action. So we will demonstrate a few items from the Whisk, the Wyatt, and the Self, because we don't want to leave out any SLPs who might be on the call. And then if we have enough time, we'll have a special treat. I will showcase some of the Bracken 4, which is a new assessment that will be available in the Assess 2.0 app. So to do this, I'm going to be sharing my screen. I'll walk you through creating an assessment session as well. But before we do that, let's go through some of these slides and highlight some of the new features that you'll come to expect on the new Assess app. Before we get started, I wanted to address one of the most common questions that I get as an assessment consultant, which stems from some of the confusion around our two platforms. We've got Q Interactive, which we're focused on today, and our other platform, Q Global. Now, we do have other platforms, but today we will be focused on Q Interactive. But I do want to mention really quickly that clinicians do definitely use both platforms all the time. It is very common. The way that I like to describe it to customers is that if you are using Q Interactive, you're likely using it as a tablet-based assessment platform for your performance-based measures. So think about assessments that typically use a stimulus book, a response booklets, manipulatives, whereas Q Global, on the other end, is often used for rating scales and questionnaires to be able to do things like the BASC, the Brown executive function and attention scales, the Vineland, the MMPI. And also it's used sometimes to access purchase PDF copies of our manuals and stimulus books for those customers who are not using Q Interactive, or if you are using Q Interactive, it would be for the assessments that are not available just yet in Q Interactive. So hopefully that clears things up a little bit. So again, we're going to be focused on Q Interactive today. So answering the first question that you probably all have, when is it going to be released? The release date in the US is mid-April. Why is this a big deal? Well, our current legacy Assess app was released way back in 2013. So this is over 10 years ago. We've certainly learned a lot in over 10 years. In addition, the assessment library grew from 7 tests all the way up to now 20 different assessment batteries, performance-based measures spanning ability, academic achievement, memory, neuropsychology, speech and language, and other domains. So for those of you who are joining me from O Canada, if you are, or if you happen to, you can expect the release date to be a little bit later in July of this year. Now, when our team was designing the new Assess app, we took a lot of feedback from customers. As an assessment consultant, I can tell you that, weekly we would be getting some feedback and we would relay that information to our QI team. People would never hold back, right? Ranging from how the items were designed, how buttons worked. A lot of people had a lot to say about how our note system worked as well. So we've made some really good improvements on all of those fronts. We had the opportunity to actually start from scratch. So we've been able to take advantage of technological improvements that have happened over the past decade to design something that is truly, in my opinion, wonderful, user-friendly, and clinician-focused. We're also able to introduce various improvements to the iPad performance and the connectivity. This was something that was really important for us. We needed something that was bulletproof, that would work efficiently. And also, as new versions of the iOS platform gets pushed out, we wanted to make sure that Q Interactive would remain stable as an app. Now, the next question that we're probably bound to get is, when does support end for the old Assess app? So here's your date right here. You can write that down if you'd like. So support for the legacy app will be December 15th. Now, I'm going to read through some of these points because it is important to take this into consideration. So, end of support, December 15, 2023 in the US. In Canada, it will be a little bit later. We're thinking it'll be around March of 2024. Once support ends, and this is really important, you will no longer be able to communicate your results from the Assess app to the central platform where you generate your reports. So with that said, it is really important that you complete any assessments on the old app before the end of support date. So hopefully that gives you enough time to slowly transition. I know that for some, it could be a big transition. You might be part of an organization that needs approvals or needs the app pushed out to all your iPad devices. So we'll give you hopefully enough time, but just make sure that once you have that new app installed, that you're transitioning to the new app as quickly as possible. Now, if you do happen to have finished assessments on your old app, you could technically still log in and access those, but again, it will not communicate those results back to Central. And then another, I think, common question that we'll probably get is, are my assessments going to transfer from the old app to the new app? So the answer to that is no. Assessment sessions saved on the old app will not transfer over to the new app. So that might spark a lot of different questions from all of you. And if you need any help during that transition period, I do recommend for you to reach out to your assessment consultant or to the technical support team. We love having these conversations with you. We're constantly booking meetings with different teams and discussing how we can move everybody over to the new app. So over the past 10 years, the customer base has grown significantly. So I can't speak to the US because I don't see the numbers, but I know that in Canada, as an example, it has become our #1 seller in my market anyways, over all of our traditional kits as a whole. So this tells me that if you are a clinician and you have a colleague or a coworker who hasn't tried or heard of or used Q Interactive before, you may want to ask them why, and be like, hey, do you know that most people are using Q Interactive? Why haven't you switched over? There's a lot of efficiencies that go around with using Q Interactive. Now, we understand also that in some situations, it might be helpful to have paper kits, completely understandable. But for like as a general blanket statement, if you're in private practice or you are in a healthcare organization who's already using Q Interactive, you're absolutely going to love the new Assess app. So globally, we have over 100,000 professionals using Q Interactive. It's used over 10 different countries. There's over 1 million subtests administered each month. So if we do the math, that is about 1 subtest every 3 seconds. So that's crazy to think about, that every 3 seconds, a clinician is administering 1 subtest. So this gives us a launching pad to where we want this new Assess app to go. We look at where Q Interactive has been the past 10 years, and it certainly directs us to where we want to go in the future. We definitely, I would say, believe in being able to leverage technology to create efficiencies in your workflow, and Q Interactive certainly does that. You spoke, we listened, we listened. We have been working on this app for many years, as I've said, and a lot of things have changed since the release date over 10 years ago. One thing that stood out, I think, for me is seeing clinicians, so you guys, being more accepting of having technology help you automate some of the tedious tasks that are more prone to human error. I think that in the past, a lot of people were really for using traditional paper kits because they believed that it gave them the most control and therefore it was more flexible, it was more accurate, maybe less confusing, especially if you've been using traditional paper kits since your graduate programs. However, I am seeing this cultural shift, this change where clinicians are now way more accepting than they were before in leveraging technology in order to allow you to focus on the things that really matter most, which is connecting with your client, making observations in terms of the behaviors that you see, and then going through the items without having to always think about how many more items do I need to do to discontinue and hit my ceiling? What item do I reverse to? So you no longer have to think about those things because Q Interactive is really guided. It helps you go through this assessment process a lot more efficiently. Now, through market surveys, customer interviews, constant feedback from you, live administrations, beta testing, we've done research studies, we even introduced the new Assess app in different conferences. We were really able to put together what I believe is a very impressive app that I think will pave the way how we come to do assessments in the future. Generally speaking, the old app utilized old technology, which had to be heavily customized. It limited our ability to make changes. It required a great deal of maintenance, and any improvements that we wanted to make often took a lot of time and it was harder to do. The new Assess app, on the other end, is built on new technology. It leverages things like widgets, as an example, to be able to write your notes. It allows us to make changes also a lot more quickly. And therefore, for you, when you go to use the app, you'll see that there's a lot less bulky content downloads. It's just a lot more fluid in that sense. The performance and the reliability, you'll see it go up right away. Ultimately, though, the new Assess app will result in what I think is a new, modern, streamlined experience for all of you. Okay, so I'm going to just shut off my video here just so that you can really focus in on the new features and not be distracted by me. So hopefully this will help out. We're going to review some of the new features that are coming up in the new Assess app. So first and foremost, the new home dashboard has been completely redesigned. It'll look a little bit like this. The dashboard is a lot more simple to navigate. It's got search functions, sorting capabilities, flag for items that need resolution, pre-test system checks to ensure your iPads are ready to go. And I think the theme looks pretty cool. It's a light blue color. And there's also improved animations throughout. So if we compare that to what it used to look like, or I guess what it looks like today and what it will look like when the new Assess app comes out, you can see that in the past, your assessment workflow would be divided by your status, your assessment status. So things like not started, in progress, assessments that have things to do. And we thought that this was wasting a lot of space. So what we've done here is we've got one nicely categorized screen where you can choose as a clinician how you want your assessments to show up. So do you want to filter them by examinee name? Do you want to filter them by the assessment title, the test date, or the status? Now, if you've got lots of clients and you're having trouble finding that client, you can always use this nice little search bar at the very top where you can search for your client and it will automatically find that for you. The other thing that's pretty neat is that any flagged items will be flagged in yellow here, and you'll see that on the main screen. Okay, next up is the assessment details page. So think about when you have created an assessment session and you open that assessment session on your iPad. So this is what it looks like today. So in the new assessment details page, you're able to really see everything that is important to you. So your examinee demographic details, the assessment details in terms of how long it's going to take, what's the status, when the start date is. And then on the right side, you'll be able to see all the subtests that you have scheduled for that day. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It certainly happened to me, where you pick a student or a client and then you realize later on that you have the wrong age or the wrong grade. Now you can change those quite seamlessly in the app itself. You can change the date of birth, and you can also change the grade for things like the WIAT or any achievement academic measures. So this is what it used to look like on the left side, and this is what it looks like today. So again, you can see that the assessment workflow, how it used to be filtered, was taking up a whole lot of space on your screen. So we've removed that so that everything that's important, you'll see it on the main screen, on the main assessment dashboard. Okay. You can toggle between examinee information, battery, and results, or actually that's how it used to be. Now you can do everything on the one screen. The new app is also smarter with the screen space, and it includes the ability to edit your examinee information, as I said. Another really good feature, in my opinion, is the improved notes system, the widget system. So in the new app, it allows you to delete a note, mark a note as important, adjust the opacity of the note so that you can see the content underneath. And by the way, we're going to showcase these things live on the Assess app right after these few slides. You can also move the note around on your screen. And eventually what we'll do through some more updates is we'll have the ability to improve the sensitivity to the handwriting so that it looks a lot more natural. And there will also be an eraser function where you can erase the notes or parts of the notes that you have without having to delete the entire note. I know that this is something that we would often get comments on by our customers. So this is what it used to look like, and this is what it looks like today. The results page has been improved significantly as well. So in the results page, you can now expand subtests, composites, and view more information. The new visual representation of the subtests and scaled and composite scores, in my opinion, I think looks really nice. I'll show you another screenshot in just a second of what that looks like. But here is the comparison to what it used to look like versus what it looks like today. So the important information is listed here. You no longer have to click on the little gray box to get that information. If you want further information about a scaled score, you can click that little graph button that you'll see in the Assess app. And then it'll look like this. So it's plotted out on a nice little graph. And what I really like is that in your composite scores, you can even see your confidence intervals and where the point lies here in terms of the how it compares to the normative sample. Now, when things go wrong, I don't know what you normally do, but I know that a lot of you will call us, the assessment consultants, and you'll say to us, what's going on? I'm trying to administer this subtest. I went to the results page and I'm not getting a score. What's going on? Is it something that I did? Is it something that the app is doing? So now what we've done is that there has been hopefully some really good improvements on the messaging around why you may not be getting a certain score. So in this case on the screen, you can see that one or more scores related to that composite did not have a score. So that tells you that you may have maybe done out of age testing, or perhaps you've forgotten to properly score one of these subtests that relates to that composite score. So hopefully that type of messaging will help you sort of realize where the errors have been made so that you can quickly fix that and get on with your day. Another small but pretty significant feature is the don't know, no response auto scoring. So it's pretty obvious that if a client tells you that they don't know the answer, or if they offer no response, that it is a 0-point answer. In the old app, you used to have to press DK or NR and then assign a 0 point answer. Now it is automatically done for you. So as soon as you do DK or NR, it auto scores this as a 0. There's also some really good responsive corrective feedback. In the old app, typically, I would say that a lot of times you would have um, directions on what to say when the client responds correctly versus incorrectly. And it was a little bit cluttered in terms of how it was presented to the clinician who's working. But now what you'll see is responsive corrective feedback. So depending on how the client responds, if it's correct or incorrect, the messaging right below here will change depending on what they had previously said. There's also lots of additional features, so small little improvements that have been made. So I'll showcase some of these in the live demonstration, but just to kind of highlight some of them for now. In block design, so for those who are whisk or waste users, you'll notice that now if you double tap this little box here, it will automatically replicate that design down here. We used to have to press one box at a time to show the app what the client was doing. But most oftentimes they were just replicating the design correctly. And so in order to make that easier for the clinician to score, you can just double tap and it will highlight this as correct. And then the timer has changed a little bit too. You can reset the timer. You can see how far you have left until the timer is up. So I thought that was pretty nice. The picture span subtest. This is one that I always like to show to a lot of customers because I find it really interesting how you do it on the iPads compared to having a stimulus book, because you're typically flipping through these pages every 5 seconds, and it can be cumbersome if the client was distracted and you need to like show the stimulus items again. So this subtest has been redesigned. It looks similar to what it used to, but there's been some improvements in terms of how you can reset the items. And also, you don't have to swipe through multiple pages for an item. You can do everything on one single page. Another subtest that I love showcasing is the fluency subtest from the Wyatt. So this is a subtest where you ask your client to name as many colors or as many animals as they can in under 1 minute. It was always a tricky one, I have to say, for a lot of clinicians. They weren't always sure on how to administer this one. And to be fair, it is a little bit tricky. A lot of times your client will name off a bunch of animals or a bunch of colors really rapidly, and you may not have time to write those in immediately. So there's a couple tricks that I'll show you in a bit on how to make that a little bit easier for you. And keep in mind that for this subtest, there is an audio recording that happens so that if you do need to go back and listen to what the client has said, you can always do that and then adjust your scoring accordingly. There's also a new keypad feature here. So on the old app, the keypad would take over the entire screen. This didn't really make a lot of sense. So now there's a smaller keypad where you can mark your correct and incorrect answers for subtests like the coding and symbol search from the Whisk. Another really neat feature is the bulk assessment removal feature. So it is best practice, I typically say to all our customers, that when you're done an assessment with a client and you've completed your report and you completed your feedback, you know that you don't have to go back to it to rescore or edit the scores or anything like that. It is best practice to delete that from your iPad if you can. But I do know a lot of clinicians who keep those on their iPads and eventually they run out of space on their iPad. So for those clinicians who need to bulk remove their assessments, you can now do that in the Assess app. There will be some changes in the test battery, so what will be available versus what will no longer be available. So we're excited to introduce the new Bracken. I know that a lot of SLPs love this assessment. It's a basic concept and receptive measure. We can go over it a little bit. And this one will be available on the new Assess 2.0 app. So a good one to look out for. The other one that a lot of psychologists are very excited about, and other clinicians too, is the decaf. So we're currently working on the new decaf, which is coming out next year. We are certainly capable of doing a demo if you would like to see what that looks like at some point. Just reach out to your assessment consultant and we'll help out with that. On the right side is any tests that will be removed. So these are old tests that most customers don't use anymore anyways. So the CMS will be discontinued. The CVLT2 will be discontinued. Most of you are probably using the CVLT3. The Goldman Fristo 2, again, most of you are probably using the third edition. The WISC 4, most people are using the WISC 5. The Wyatt 3, there's the new Wyatt 4, and then PPVT 4, of course, there's the new PPVT 5. This will be a little bit different for Canada just because we are actually still using the Wyatt 3 with Canadian norms. So we'll have more information about that as time goes by. So in the next slide, I'm just going to highlight some of the steps that you need to take to migrate over to the new Assess app. So step number 1, let's start with the current app. So you may have a lot of caseloads, a lot of turnover weekly. So what I would recommend there is take all the time that you need to make that transition, but do note that by the end of this year, hopefully most of you will have make that transition. But the first step really that you need to do is to remove any caseloads that you have in the old Assess app. Okay. Once you've done that, you can then delete the old Assess app from your iPad. It's pretty important to do that before you install the new app. And the reason for that is that when you set up a new assessment for your client and you click send to iPad, it's going to send it to whichever app that you log into first. So let's say you've got both apps on your iPad and you accidentally log into the old app. That assessment that you have created for your assessment for the week will load up on the old Assess app. So you don't want that to happen. So just by default, you should most likely, if you can, delete any assessments you have on the old app, and then also delete the app itself before you install the new Q Interactive app. So to do that, you can go directly in the App Store, search for Q Interactive, and you'll see this nice little blue version of Q Interactive. Then you can log into the new Assess app, download any content if needed, and start practicing. So a reminder to all customers, we have a practice mode, which allows you to administer as many subtests as you want without it charging you any subtest credits. The only difference is that you won't be able to generate any scores at the end, but for the purpose of playing around with the new platform and seeing some of the new changes, I do highly recommend doing the practice mode. And then when you're ready to do it with an actual client, you can create real examinees and real assessment sessions. We offer numerous different kinds of training and support resources for all of our customers. We're going to be doing some webinars just like today that are free, that are available to all customers if they'd like to see some of the highlights of the new features. We're going to introduce the new app as we are today. And then in the support tab, there will eventually also be some subtest modules that you can look at. And for those of you who are part of a larger organization where you would benefit from a paid training, we do offer those as well. We've got lots of amazing trainers that can meet with you, whether it's in person or remotely. and do a thorough training on the new Assess app so that all of you feel very comfortable. If you would like to take a look at what the training options are, you can use this QR code. So just hold up your phone camera to the screen, and this will take you to our training support resources website. And of course, if you have any questions along the way, you can find your assessment consultant rep. So again, you can use this QR code to take you to our page where you can find your rep. In Canada, we have a different website. So again, you should probably just reach out to me if you're from Canada. But if you're from the US, go ahead and use this QR code, find your assessment rep, and you can book a quick call with us. You can book a webinar if you need directly into our calendars, and we love to consult with you and to help you make this transition happen. All right. So this is the end of the PowerPoint deck. I'm taking a look at the time, so we're pretty good on time. We've got about 30 minutes or so, a little bit less than 30 minutes left. So what I will do is I'm going to showcase a few subtests from the Whisk, the Wyatt, and the Self 5, and hopefully if we have time, the new Bracken as well. So just wanted to quickly highlight that the central website has not changed at all. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the screen, okay? This will look exactly the same. Nothing has been changed. You still go to qiactive.com to log in, and you would go to your clients section. Let me log in again. Create your clients. If you want to practice, you can go to practice clients and create a practice client instead. We want to be able to view the scores today. So I'm going to go ahead and create an assessment session for child 001. I'm going to create an assessment session, and then here you'll see any of the new tests that are available in the new Assess app. Some of these might be a little bit different when you first look at the Assess app, because as I said, like the DCAFs is not available right now, but you get the idea, right? Now, for some of you who might not know this, I just want to highlight this feature because I love it so very much. You can highlight any subtests by subtest type. So I get a lot of questions sometimes on like, well, I want to do something related to phonological processing, and maybe I don't want to use the Wyatt. What other measures do you have? Well, a lot of people don't know that the KTA3, as an example, has 3 subtests that allows you to get usually the information that you need for a phonological processing score. Now, for the purpose of today, let's go back here, and we're going to select a custom battery that I've designed for today, which has a little bit of Whisk, a little bit of Wyatt, a little bit of Self, and the Bracken. So we're going to go ahead and add this to my battery. We're going to click on Next. We can select the grade for the Wyatt. You can name the assessment so that it's easily searchable later on. Make sure that you have the scheduled assessment time and that it's active. So we're going to do that for today, and we're going to go ahead and send this to the iPad. Now it's saying awaiting delivery to device. Great. So now what we want to do is pull up our iPads. I've already logged in here. So what you see on the left side is the practitioner iPad. And on the right side is the client iPad. So for some of you who are used to using QInteractive, the client iPad looks pretty similar. It's a blank white screen until you decide to showcase a stimulus item. And then the practitioner iPad looks like the dashboard that I showed you earlier. So this is neat. You can filter by examinee, by the title of the assessment, by the test date, by the status. I'm going to go ahead and hit my refresh button so that we can load up the assessment that we've just created. And you'll see it hopefully here. There we go. I'm going to modify by start date. So here's the one that we just created just now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. That takes me to now the main dashboard that allows me to review some of the examinee details, the assessment details, and then the subtests that we have scheduled. One quick note on how we've done this today. I do not recommend setting up your assessment battery like this, where you're mixing different subtest type. I would usually recommend that if you're doing the whisk, you would create an assessment session for just the whisk subtests, and then a separate assessment session for the Wyatt, the self-5, and so forth. The reason being is that oftentimes I know that when you're doing many different assessments, batteries with a client, you may have a different start date, and that may sometimes affect the age at testing. So you want that to properly reflect the right age, right? Whereas if you have it all mix and match like this, it's going to default whatever scheduled date you have for, in this case, the whisk, which is the first subtest that we're going to be doing today. So again, if you want to change some of this information, you can change the birth date. You can select a new grade for the Wyatt if you need to. And then you can determine how much time it's going to take you to do this assessment. Don't worry, we're not going to be sitting here for 85 minutes. We're going to go through these relatively quickly. On this side is all the subtests that we have ready to go. If you hit the little edit button at the very top, this will look similar to the old app. You can see that you can pick and choose different subtests. So let's say we realize that we don't want to do phonemic proficiency from the Wyatt today. We want to keep that for another day. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And now I can modify the assessment battery so that it removed phonemic proficiency. Any items that are left to do, so if I didn't score it right away, I need to go back to listen to the recording. They'll show up here. And if I'm ready to start the assessment, I can go ahead and click on start. All right, so we're going to start with block design. And we're going to go ahead and flip through the first item. So you can see the animations look quite nice. The theme is in blue. You've got your instructions that show up right away for block design. Of course, nothing has changed in terms of the instructions that you're giving to your client. But what has changed, as I said, is the little timer here. So you'll notice that when I press play, the timer goes. I'm going to go ahead and show picture for the client. And then most clients will probably get the first one right. So if I want to mark this as correct, I'm going to double tap around this area, and it's going to automatically replicate this on the response section. And then I can go ahead and award this a 2-point or 0-point answer. So I'm assuming they finished this in below 30 seconds. Maybe we made a mistake and we want to adjust this to 22 seconds and award a 2-point answer. Okay. So now we go to the next one and show the next item. I also find that the ability to rotate this block, so you're using 2 fingers here and rotating the actual dimension of the blocks, I find is a lot more fluent. It works a lot better. So you'll notice some improvement there. And again, you can quickly double tap anywhere here and it's going to replicate the design. I'm going to flag this item just to show you what that looks like later on. Okay, here's the next item. We're going to go ahead and award this 2 points. And we're going to go and do, let's discontinue now. There we go. So you get a messaging about hitting the ceiling for the subtest. This is kind of neat. So a lot of people weren't sure how to go back if they made a mistake. Now there's a nice little edit score button that you can go to that will take you back to the last item. And then you can modify this in case you made a mistake. But let's just pretend we didn't. We're going to go ahead and discontinue the subtest. Okay, so now notice that I have a little flagged item here. It's marked in my to-do and also down here. So if I want to, I can go ahead and review this item right away to see what happened. In this case, I could say I didn't use the timer, so maybe like I need to fix this before I can get a proper score. I'm going to remove the flag and I'm going to hit done. Now I've got an accurate score. All right, picture span. So I love to showcase this subtest. I find that it's really easy to administer using the iPads. So here you've got the one screen. and you can show the picture, and your timer is right here. So in this subtest, you show a stimulus item, and then you want your client to tell you which one was first, which one was second, based on how long they see it. So in 5 seconds in this case, and in 5 seconds, it will automatically change the order, and you would ask your client to touch the pictures in the order that you showed them. Now, a lot of times there would be specific situations where the child or the adolescents, they were distracted and they didn't actually see the stimulus items correctly. If that ever happens, you can reset this really quickly. When you do press this item, it makes the screen blank and it resets the stimulus item so that you can go ahead and show the picture again and start your timer. Now, the scoring is also done on the same screen, so the client will touch the sock first and then the apple, hopefully, and get a correct answer, and then you can go and start the next item and start the timer. Now, I'm going to show you what happens if you get one wrong. It's going to prompt the reversal criteria, the reversal rule. If you made a mistake, you can always edit your scores. If it wasn't a mistake, you can go ahead and reverse the item, and this will automatically take you to the correct item to reverse. This hasn't changed. It was a feature that was in the old app as well, but I always like to highlight that because some people are very impressed by that. So it automatically takes you to item number 3, and you can go ahead and show this, start your timer. Oops. And then let's say they get this one right. It reverses one more time to item number 2. Client gets this one right. And now, as you can see, the test resumes because there was 2 consecutive perfect scores. Okay. Now let's discontinue this subtest and go on to the next one. Thank you for your patience as we go through these items. Oops. There we go. And you get your scores. All right, the next subtest that I wanted to do with you is the fluency subtest that we mentioned earlier. So the fluency subtest does not change for this part of the subtest. This stays the same. So you would show a picture and then you say, tell me a word that means brush for cleaning teeth. It's a toothbrush. You can write the verbatim answer here if you'd like, or you can select some of the most popular items here. So if someone says butterfly for this next one, which is the correct answer, you award 1 point, and so on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and discontinue this part of the subtest. And go to the fluency section. Okay, so for this section, you would ask the client to name as many animals as they can in under 1 minute. So this is what it looks like when you start your timer right here on the right side. So this directions will go away. Your timer starts. And it used to be that a lot of people would just write like a line through here if they couldn't hear what the client was saying. What I would actually suggest doing here is try to write the answers as you hear it. But if they're going too fast, what you can do is just click a little dot and then alternate to mark that they've said an answer. You're just not sure what that answer was. You want to revisit it later so that you can mark it as correct or incorrect. Okay, so now let's say they finish here. So it's been 60 seconds. Now, if you want to go back and listen to the recording, you can. And once you do, you can click one of these items and you can write what they said directly in here and then mark it as correct or incorrect. So it's a lot more fluent in that sense, a lot easier to score. And you can always click these little correct bubbles here if you know that all of them are correct, or mark individually like no correct. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And then you can do the same thing for colors. I'm not going to bother showing you this one, but I'm going to go ahead and quickly go through this. Mark these correct and go to the next one. Sentence repetition has not changed, so I'm going to go ahead and discontinue this prematurely and go on to the next item just in interest of time. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So the next subtest that I want to show is from the Self 5. Oh no, okay, we got one more for the WISC. So yeah, with the coding subtest, now you can mark the amount of correct answers directly on the keypad here. So that's a minor difference, but certainly helpful. And now we go to Self 5, word classes. There we are. So again, this one has not changed. It just looks a little bit different. So I'm going to say some words to show you some pictures. Two of the words go together. Look and listen as I say the words. Puppy, frog, dog. Puppy and dog are the two words that go together. Flip through the next item. And then you can see that the responses here will dynamically change based on whether it's correct or incorrect. So it used to be a little bit cluttered where you would see everything under one screen. Now it will change based on the answer. So if it's a correct response, now you know as a clinician, you just continue to the next item. And so on. All right, let's discontinue this. And with the very few minutes that we have left, I'll showcase a little bit from the new Bracken assessment that we have. This one is I really like this one. I had a chance to look at it a few weeks ago. I think that it can be incredibly useful if you want a quick measure to measure basically basic concepts or school readiness. And so it has a few different subtests that you can do. But what I really like about this is the stimulus items are really nice. It pulls from some of the subtests that you're already familiar with, like the Self 5, right? Like this section is very similar here. So in this subtest, you would ask the client to look at all the colors and show you which color is pink. They would actually click it with their finger. Which one's orange, which one's purple, and so on. Another part of this subtest is measuring letters. So in this case here, you're showcasing a bunch of letters. You're saying, look at all of these letters, show me the letter K. So the client will select the letter K, show me the letter U, H, and so on. And to finish this off, I will do this last portion here. So this does numbers and counting. Look at these numbers and then show me 0. So very simple to administer, and it's a really good one. I definitely recommend it if you haven't used it before. Okay. Now, once you are finished the assessment, you can go back to the home screen. You would refresh the results. You can go back to Central, and then you'll find the assessment that you just did. And all of the notes that you've made will be listed here as it is in the old app. Your battery and results will be available right away, your composite scores, and all of that good stuff. So hopefully that demo was really helpful. Now we can always go into more depth. So if you have a team that is maybe a team of psychologists and you want us to do a demo that is specific to psychologists, we can do that. We can do it for SLPs and so forth, okay? In the support tab, we will eventually upload some more information about tutorials, subtests, demonstrations as well. So keep an eye on this. And a reminder that if you have to review any of the manuals, it is always available here under test materials where you have copies of the test manuals. So I will give you guys a few minutes back. We've got like 4 minutes left. If there are any more questions that you have in regards to the new Assess app, please post them in the chat right now. I will go ahead and start my video again. Let's see here. Okay, I see lots of stuff in the chat. It looks like everything has been taken care of. Yeah, so again, as a reminder, if you would like to chat with us, please reach out to your assessment consultant rep, and we will schedule a call with you and we'll have a greater conversation about this. So we're so excited about the new Assess app. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's my pleasure to be presenting to you from way up north in Canada. If I can be of any help at any time, feel free to reach out. And I'm wishing everybody a great day and a wonderful rest of your week.